In this documentary, we explore the horrifying story of Josef Mengele, the man known as the Angel of Death. As a Nazi doctor at Auschwitz, Mengele carried out grotesque experiments on prisoners, all in the name of advancing a twisted vision of racial superiority. His cruel fascination with twins, in particular, left a trail of unimaginable pain and suffering. Even after the war, Mengele evaded justice for years, becoming one of history's most infamous war criminals. This short film uncovers his dark legacy and the enduring questions surrounding his life and crimes. Josef Mengele, infamously known as the Angel of Death, is one of the most notorious figures of the Holocaust. Born on March 16, 1911 in Günzburg, Bavaria, Mengele came from a wealthy family, allowing him access to education and privilege. He studied philosophy and medicine, becoming fascinated with eugenics, the pseudoscience of improving the human race through selective breeding. This ideology aligned with the Nazi Party's belief in Aryan racial superiority, which Mengele fully embraced. In 1938, Mengele joined the SS, where his ambitions thrived within the Nazi regime's brutal racial policies. After being wounded on the Eastern Front in 1942, he was reassigned to Auschwitz-Birkenau, where he became chief physician in 1943. There, Mengele conducted selections, deciding with a flick of his finger who would be sent to the gas chambers and who would be subjected to forced labor or his cruel experiments. His calm, detached demeanor earned him the chilling nickname Angel of Death. Mengele's experiments, particularly on twins, were infamous for their cruelty. He subjected children to surgeries without anesthesia and injected them with deadly diseases. His experiments also included attempts to change eye color, sterilization procedures, and brutal methods aimed at curing homosexuality, all conducted without any regard for human life. After the war, Mengele escaped capture and fled to South America, living under assumed identities. Despite being one of the most wanted war criminals, he evaded justice and died in 1979. His horrific legacy as a symbol of Nazi cruelty endures as a reminder of the dangers of unchecked power, extremist ideology, and the dehumanization of science. Mengele's actions at Auschwitz remain a stark warning of the moral corruption that can arise when scientific pursuits are divorced from humanity. By 1943, Josef Mengele, a fervent Nazi and believer in eugenics, arrived at Auschwitz-Birkenau, where he conducted brutal experiments under the guise of racial science. Known as the Angel of Death, he oversaw deadly selections and subjected twins, Roma children, and others to cruel procedures, including surgeries without anesthesia. Mengele's experiments aimed to promote Aryan superiority, manipulating victims by posing as a caring figure. As the war ended, he fled, evading capture until his death in 1979. Survivor testimonies, like those of Eva Moses Kor, revealed his atrocities, highlighting the dangers of unethical science and dehumanizing ideologies. Survivor testimonies provide the most powerful insights into Josef Mengele's horrific experiments at Auschwitz. Among his most famous victims were twins, such as Eva Moses Kor and her sister Miriam, who were subjected to daily injections and invasive tests. Eva recalled being injected with a deadly disease and enduring excruciating pain, while Mengele callously monitored her condition. Though Eva survived, Miriam later suffered from long-term health issues due to the experiments. Roma survivors like Vera Kriegel and Margit Feld also endured Mengele's cruelty. Vera, taken to Auschwitz at just 5 years old, underwent painful surgeries and injections. She described Mengele as emotionless and detached, treating the children like toys. Margit remembered Mengele inspecting Roma children as if they were objects, subjecting them to experiments that left lasting physical and psychological scars. Mengele's experiments extended beyond twins and Roma children. Jewish women like Miriam Ziegler were subjected to sterilization procedures as part of his pursuit of racial purity. Ziegler described feeling dehumanized and treated as disposable by Mengele. Mengele's manipulation of his victims deepened their trauma. He presented himself as kind and caring to the children, offering them food before subjecting them to horrific procedures. This duality left many survivors grappling with the psychological torment of his actions. An estimated 3,000 twins and countless other prisoners were victims of Mengele's experiments, though fewer than 200 twins survived. Despite his atrocities, Mengele evaded justice after the war, leaving survivors to carry the weight of their trauma while advocating for Holocaust remembrance and education. As the Third Reich collapsed, Josef Mengele fled Auschwitz in January 1945 to evade capture for his war crimes. Using false identities and blending in with retreating soldiers, he managed to avoid detection by Allied forces. Despite being briefly detained by US troops, he was released due to the lack of recognition of his name at the time. In 1949, Mengele escaped to Argentina through the Nazi rat lines, using forged papers under the alias Helmut Gregor. Supported by a network of Nazi sympathizers, he lived a relatively comfortable life in Argentina and later in Paraguay, while international efforts to capture him intensified. By the 1950s, Holocaust survivor Simon Wiesenthal and Israel's Mossad were actively pursuing Mengele. Despite coming close to capture, particularly after Mossad's successful abduction of Adolf Eichmann in 1960, Mengele evaded justice, moving frequently across South America. His paranoia grew, but he remained supported by former Nazis and sympathizers. He continued living in isolation, reclusive, and plagued by health issues. Mengele died in 1979 after suffering a stroke while swimming in Brazil. He was buried under a false name, and his death went unnoticed for years. It was only in 1985 that forensic evidence confirmed his identity. Mengele's ability to evade justice has left a lasting sense of injustice for his victims and Holocaust survivors. Though he never faced trial, the pursuit of accountability for his crimes endures, with survivors and historians ensuring that his atrocities are remembered. Josef Mengele, known as the Angel of Death, conducted brutal experiments on prisoners at Auschwitz, particularly twins, leaving a legacy of horror and unpunished crimes. Despite his atrocities, Mengele evaded justice, fleeing to South America after World War II, and living in relative peace until his death in 1979. His crimes, which were never brought before a court, remain a profound source of pain for his victims and a reminder of the failures of post-war justice. Survivors of Mengele's experiments, like Eva Moses Kor, played a crucial role in keeping his legacy in the public eye, sharing their stories and advocating for Holocaust education. Some, like Kor, controversially chose forgiveness, while others continued to call for accountability. The pursuit of Mengele by Nazi hunters like Simon Wiesenthal and the Mossad highlighted the difficulty in capturing him, as he managed to elude authorities for decades. Mengele's actions and subsequent escape underscored the challenges of post-war justice and the complicity of governments in helping war criminals. His crimes also influenced modern medical ethics, leading to the creation of the Nuremberg Code, which established guidelines to prevent abuses in human experimentation. Today, Mengele's name serves as a symbol of the dangers of unchecked power, ideological extremism, and the necessity of confronting past injustices. His legacy continues to influence Holocaust education, reminding the world of the atrocities committed and the importance of vigilance against hatred and racism. Josef Mengele's legacy, rooted in the Nazi regime's twisted ideology, extends far beyond his horrific experiments at Auschwitz. As a doctor who weaponized science for racial purity, Mengele's actions highlight the dangers of science devoid of ethics, demonstrating how institutions can enable atrocities. His escape from justice, aided by networks of complicity, reflects the failures of post-war efforts to hold war criminals accountable. Mengele's crimes also raise profound questions about personal responsibility, dehumanization, and the capacity for evil. Mengele's story remains relevant as modern science and technology present new ethical dilemmas. His legacy serves as a cautionary tale for the need for ethical oversight and vigilance against extremism. Efforts to seek justice, though incomplete, continue through Holocaust education, which preserves the memory of his victims and reminds the world of the dangers posed by hatred and dehumanizing ideologies. Ultimately, Mengele's life and crimes force a reckoning with the nature of evil, the importance of accountability, and the ongoing fight to ensure that such atrocities are never repeated. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please watch other videos in this channel, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Until then, I'll catch you in the next one.